I don't know how every video seems to have terrible lighting and a red brick backdrop. And this one even has like extra junk in my garage thrown in. Wow, this is starting off great. Hello everyone, thanks for coming outside with me today. Today we're going to take a break away from archery and archery related stuff to talk about painting accessories for hunting, whether it be tree stands or gun stocks or anything that you can really find that you could paint to tone down the color if it's real bright and shiny or just change its overall look. Today specifically we're looking at the tethered predator platform, which is a saddle hunting platform. If you want to learn more about saddle hunting or platforms in general, follow the links in the description below to my other saddle hunting content. Predator platform, in my opinion, is the best saddle hunting platform on the market. Its modularity, its leveling system, its packability, it's so lightweight. I think it just really is a phenomenal saddle hunting platform. The only problem with it is, I shouldn't say a problem, necessarily something I want to change, is that it comes as bare aluminum from the factory and it has a shine, a little sheen to it. It's nothing super bright. It's closer to more of a semi-gloss or an eggshell than it is to a full gloss color. But I wanted to paint it, add my own little DIY touch, a personal thing, and make it a little bit better for me while I'm in the woods. So all this stuff here, I'm not using anything special. I'm using random spray paint I found here in my garage to get the colors that I want. You can go out and buy camouflage specific colors in the blacks, greens, and browns that are more of a matte finish and not a glossier look. I'm not too worried about that little bit of sheen, little bit of shine I might get from a semi-gloss paint. If you go out into the woods, particularly in the early season, you got a lot of full sun, greenery everywhere. There is water droplets and glinting and shining off of a lot of things in the woods. It's not going to stand out like a glowing beacon, that's for darn sure, particularly when I'm 15 or more feet up a tree. But just toning it down a little bit and adding a more personal touch is what I'm going for today. I haven't removed all of the hardware. For example, the bracket that comes in contact with the tree, I've left that on there. It's not going to get moved anytime soon. It's permanently on there. The bolt that's inside for the leveling system of the platform, I just covered up with a little bit of masking tape. I got a little bit of this base coat on it, but I'm not too worried about it. It still works perfectly fine, completely, both sides in and out. So it looks like I dodged that bullet here. But I took this apart and I cleaned it with just hot soapy water, hung it with fishing line here in my garage to let it dry for a day. It's been pretty cold and miserable here in the spring of Pennsylvania so far, so I'd love to do it outside, but I got the garage door open, so it'll take care of the fumes, and it's been letting stuff dry out as the days have gone on. So I use hot soapy water, just Dawn dish soap type stuff. You could use like a carburetor or a brake cleaner or something that's more of a solvent-based cleaner if you really want to. It's not really all that necessary. This material cleans rather simply, even though it's got a rough texture to it, being cast aluminum from the factory. It cleans right off with a stiff brush and some hot soapy water. Hung it out here to dry, and I've already applied the base coat. Now, you can use any type of paint you want, like I alluded to earlier, but I decided to use automotive primer that I just had here in my garage, and it just so happens that most automotive primer is going to be this very matte gray finish. This just so happens to be the particular primer I have. It's a filler primer, which means it's supposed to fill in small imperfections on a car. You could use a self-etching primer or something else like that. I wanted a paint that really is meant to bond to metal, which is what a primer is. I just so happen to have it here in my garage, but still a can of stuff's like $4 or $5. It's not that expensive. I love the matte gray color. It's gonna be a real good base coat when we start adding the other layers on top. So of course the main staple colors are gonna be brown and black, and of course the gray, which would match a lot of the dead wood that would be in the trees. I don't have brown, and I do have some gloss colors. Like I said, I'm just kind of scrapping this together. I have some more automotive paint in this black enamel. I have a darker green, and then I have this really bright green. I don't think I'm going to have enough of this green. This is a very old can of spray paint. I might have to mix together some black and some neon to kind of get that more green look. I'm going to take some spray paint. I'm going to spray it onto the plate to get that paint there. I'm not going to actually dust it. There are lots of different methods you can do to get a different look, more of like the tree bark, or excuse me, more like the tree branches and the leaves. You could do like a grass pattern that you might see with like the real tree grass blades pattern, which has more like a crisscross pattern. That looks pretty good in the tree as well. I like that tree bar look. I kind of like that old mossy oak tree bark camos, the older stuff. Really think it looks really slick on camo for shotguns and for tree stands, but also on this Predator platform. I think it's going to be a really nice touch. So I'm going to spray this onto the plate. I'm going to take a sponge, an old kitchen sponge that I've cut into squares. I'm going to dab it into the paint, and then it'll give me that nice textured tree bark look. It's going to take a lot of time. I might be huffing some fumes out here for a little bit, but I think it's going to look really nice. We're going to do all the pattern here with the dark colors, and then starting that lighter greens and maybe a light brown, a light tan brown if I want to. after we get this initial color on. All right, I got some gloves on. We're gonna spray some nice mixed up paint here onto this plate, take a sponge, start dabbing it, and when I get some more of the pattern on here, I'll show you what it looks like in an up close shot. All right, so we're not quite finished yet, but we're pretty 3/4 of the way there. Using the plate, I've now done and gone ahead and done the green after I did the initial sponging of black. Spraying onto the plate, dipping the sponge in. Took a while to get some of the how much paint on the sponge to get used to. I tried dabbing it on a block of wood to try to get the kind of mossy tree bark looking pattern. I think it turned out, for me anyway, I really like the way it turned out. I went heavy on the green, which is more my personal preference. It's going to look super dark in the woods no matter what. I kind of like the greener look. The post is a little bit darker colored, and we'll talk about that more later as to why it looks the way it does. But I'm going to leave this completely dry for a day, at least a couple of hours here. It's a little bit colder today. But as you can see, here's how the top ended up, the bottom. And the bottom side, I was getting really frustrated with trying to get the sponge into all the little nooks and crannies and get everything colored so it was kind of uniform. And there's nothing uniform in the woods in terms of how the camouflage of the woods looks out. I'm okay with some exposed parts of gray, some of the underside in here being exposed. I know the underside's going to be the part that's going to be obviously shown to the wildlife on the forest floor, but I still think I got plenty of coverage here. There's hardly any glowing part, particularly with the post, but the bottom, I think it turned out really well. We'll just have to add a clear coat here. Once this is all done and cured, then we'll put it back together and it'll be ready to go in the woods. All right, so we gave the paint a day to cure in the garage, and actually I liked it so much the way it is. I just assembled it. I think I'm going to roll with this. So I wanted that kind of tree bark pattern like I alluded to earlier from the Catman Outdoors video from Jonathan, and this is what I actually ended up with, and I like it a lot. It's kind of very similar to the GORE Optifade, the greener versions that you get with like Sitka camo, and I wanted to actually color this on the inside like the blaze orange like you'd see in the Sitka logo, but I ended up going with red. I used some red nail polish from my wife's stash, and it ended up looking really nice. It's a nice deep earthy red, and this green and black color I just think just looks fantastic. I really like how it came together on both the underside and the top side. There's some weird spots where it's darker than others. There's more green than black in some places. I am not worried about it. I really like how it came together. From a distance in particular, the whole thing just looks black and gray. It's really when you get up close and personal with it like this, which I don't think a deer is going to be 15 feet up a tree with me. It looks really good. The underside looks solid. I didn't nitpick too much. You know, I got good colors in here, but I didn't like try to get every nook and cranny. You know, there's obviously some spots where I couldn't get the sponge all the way in without it kind of really just blotting and just looking like a dark color and not adding a texture to it. And I'm not going to panic about it. I think it came out really, really well. I did not add a clear coat or a top coat of any sort. I'm just going to run the way it currently is and see what kind of flaking I get. I'll be interested because this is a real nice matte look. I ended up having to mix together that neon green paint with the black gloss paint, and it actually came out more of an eggshell look. And there's hardly any shine to this whatsoever. Having that really nice, good, solid matte undercoating from that automotive primer, I think really helps tone it down and really keep all that gloss out of there. The black is not glossy hardly at all. The green is definitely a nice matte. I really like how it turned out. I think I'm going to have a lot of really happy sits staring at my feet when I'm in the saddle this fall. So it's stinking cold out here. It's May the 9th and there are currently snowflakes falling behind the camera. It's about 20 degrees out here, so I want to get inside. If you have any questions about painting anything for the outdoors, particularly saddle, platforms, and just saddle hunting in general, follow the links in the description below. Hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, leave a comment here on YouTube, and my email's even down in the description if you want that more personal touch. Hope you're able to get outside, enjoy the sport of archery hunting out of a saddle if you so choose. Definitely enjoy God's beautiful creation, and we'll get to see you next time.